Hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Midway Games, the series where we play Planet Coaster and other theme park video games, but mostly this. So, you might notice that this is not the same park that I was working on last time I did an episode of Midway Games. This is in fact an entirely different park. It's a collab park between me and a few friends. I've sort of dropped the last park indefinitely for a while because my building skills have just sort of increased since I last worked on it, to a point where I kind of want to start over on that park. So maybe at some point I'll bring it back. I have a plan for it, so you might see it eventually in the future. So right now we're just hopping in. This is Red River Park. It's split into 3 areas: Arkansas, Texas, and Oklahoma. Right now we're working on the Arkansas area, specifically the kids area known as Camp Little Rock, which is themed to a summer camp. This ride in particular is the ride we're going to be working on today, and it is a vintage car ride themed to golf carts, which is something that you see at a lot of summer camps that drive around. So the station for this ride is actually themed to sort of a maintenance shed. As you can see, I'm sort of working on putting windows and stuff on the shed, or the station of the ride, and it's really going to be themed to just like sort of a maintenance shed where like the maintenance workers of the camp work and store all their equipment and their vehicles, specifically the golf carts, which is going to take you on a tour. That's sort of the theme of this ride, is golf carts taking you on like a little tour. So I'm currently just working on adding a bunch of details to this station. Right here, this is a really cool piece that was made by JLW Games called the Skeleton Set. I'm using that right now. It's just a bunch of planks of wood put inside of a wall piece, a bunch of different types of wall pieces, and I'm using that right now to get this really cool roof pattern, as you can see, sort of right there. So like little brackets that can go across and sort of hold up the roof. That's what I'm using this for, and I'm going to put it all the way across the top. I'm really excited for this whole area. I've been working on it for a while, as you can see. It's just a really cool area, I think, and I think it's going to turn out really well. I'm really excited about it. Like I said, this is a collab park, so I'm working on this with a couple other people. If you want to get a really comprehensive overview of the park, I'll have a link in the description to a video I did on one of their channels, just sort of going over just a lot of the park and what the areas and stuff is going to really look like and who's building what. But right now we're really just going to be focusing on the vintage car ride for this episode. This is one of many rides in the kids area. This kids area is already pretty far along, so it features a mock family spinning coaster, a Skyline Attractions family Piscetti Bowl coaster, and it also features like a little static frog hopper that doesn't function, and a little wave swinger ride. So a lot of really cool stuff, and a lot of like a little waterfall water feature. I'm really proud of this area, and I think it's going to turn out really well when it's all finished, and it's pretty close. These next few episodes of RRP, the next 4 episodes of Midway Games, are really going to focus on finishing this area. And once I'm done with that, you're going to see me dive into the next area I'm going to be working on, which is another subsection of Arkansas. So that's going to be really cool. That area is going to be really neat. It's going to be themed to sort of like Great Depression sort of backwoods vibes. So I think it's really going to be cool. Yeah. So as you can see, I'm putting the little facility sign there on the maintenance shed. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much stuff to do in working on this park right now. So I'm really focusing on that. Currently adding a bunch of little knickknacks. I'm adding these golf carts right next to the station of the ride, where sort of you drive back into the ride, just like sort of not the brake run, but you know, that last little section. I'm adding those golf carts in to really emphasize the golf cart theme for this ride. Really the only golf cart theming is going to be in the station and that little section. The rest of the ride is just going to be really well landscaped, like you're doing a little tour around the camp. So I'm going to be working on that landscaping for a minute, just adding a bunch of bushes and stuff. And so I'm going to leave you with some nice, lovely Planet Coaster music for a few minutes, and I will be back. Enjoy. right here, I sort of think I'm gonna go in with gravel under this train for a second. It's a plan that I'm sort of making. I thought it would look really good, and I start placing it down, and in a second here you'll see I actually realized I don't really like how it looks, so I'm probably just going to landscape it in a different way. It was also going to be very tedious and a long process just to do all that gravel underneath the train tracks for a look that I wasn't too big of a fan of, so I just went ahead and deleted that. And then I'm going to start adding a bunch of these rocks to this little cliff face here. I just didn't want it to be this sort of natural Planko cutting off terrain. I wanted it to sort of build up with the rocks and stuff and carry that theme over from the waterfall that's just right next to it over past the vintage car ride and that little cabin over there. I wanted to really carry that theme over and just really build up the side of this hill and not just sort of have it cut off. So that's sort of what I do for the next few minutes. While I do that, I'm going to leave you once again with some lovely Planko music, and I'll be back to talk about more once it becomes relevant. So now I'm just adding a bunch of rocks underneath this vintage car ride just to sort of support the shore of the lake, really make it look, again, less jagged and less like it just sort of cuts off into the lake, and make the shore of this little lake here, this little inlet of the river, look a little bit more natural, and also just to hold up the track so it looks like it's just built on something and not just sort of floating. The supports do hold up the track, but I like the way that the rocks hold it up. The look that the rocks give way better than those in-game generated supports. So I'm just gonna basically for the next bit just be adding rocks all the way around this piece of track and just start landscaping it to make it look as pretty as I possibly can. This whole car ride is supposed to be just a very well landscaped and very tranquil ride, something that everybody in the family can enjoy. All the kids, the whole family can really enjoy a ride like this. So I'm just going to be really building up this hillside next to this car ride and putting in a lot of trees and stuff like that, just to really add that sort of very lovely forested feel, like you're just driving through the woods. That's sort of the vibe I'm going for this attraction, and I think it's going to turn out really, really well. I'm really proud with how it sort of looks towards the end. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done on it, and that's going to be what the next episode is. So this episode and the next episode is just going to be me finishing and fully working on this vintage car ride, and then the episodes after that are going to be the rest of the areas in the park that need completion, like the Ferris wheel. There's a little frog hopper ride that needs just a little bit of work, just stuff like that. Once again, I'm going to leave you with some lovely music to play through while I landscape this area. Enjoy. So right now I'm going in with these pretty awesome Theme Maker's Toolkit little cattail items. They're a really cool plant. They're not an in-game plant. I got them off Theme Maker's Toolkit, but I just really like the way they look. Besides that, I'm just continuing landscaping. And yeah, this hillside is really starting to look really good. Just adding in a bunch of different bushes of all sorts of colors to just add a bunch of different like little pops of color to the hillside. And different trees with different shades of green really bring the whole thing together. Right now I'm also just sort of adding a bunch of lily pads to the center pond there. Really just to bring that pond to life, add a little more color to it so it's not just sort of static. And I'm going to do the exact same thing I did with the other side on this side. Just build up the shore with these rocks and then add a bunch of plants and foliage all over these rocks. So while I do that, I'm going to leave you with, once again, some more lovely Planko music, so enjoy. yeah, I'm basically just adding as many details as I possibly can to the pond and to the shore around it. And like, I'm gonna go in with a bunch of trees right here and really just shade the ride itself and just put trees everywhere along the whole shore. Trees really do make a huge difference in this game, I think. I think one of the best ways to make an area look really good is just to sort of overload it with trees. That's something I've always realized. You have to also rotate your trees. You can't just put your trees the same height and the same like rotation in like a row. That'll look really awkward. But if you rotate your trees every time you place them, they're gonna look a little different each time and will look a little bit less like they're the exact same piece. It'll look a little bit more like they're a different tree. I'm going ahead and adding these little pine trees in. That's something I've added throughout the whole area. It's just a darker shade of green, and it's really gonna make the whole thing pop. I really love that view right there from the Midway facing toward the Ferris wheel. I think that's an excellent view. And I think when the Ferris wheel itself is surrounded in a bunch of plants and foliage and a bunch of theming, that view looking down the Midway right at the Ferris wheel is gonna be pretty iconic and a pretty substantial vista point in the park. But essentially, yeah, I'm just going in and adding these little rocks. Right here, I'm about to start work on a little bridge crossing over this area, and I think the end result is really nice. So I'm going to take a piece from this bridge over here. I'm not going to build it the exact same way. In fact, I'm going to build this bridge only out of this log piece right here. And I think it's actually going to turn out, it actually turned out really, really lovely. So at first I thought the bridge was going to be a little longer, like about that long. But as I go along, I actually shorten it and sort of move it, and you'll see I actually bring the shore of the pond in a bit so that it can sort of make this awkward turn right here, and that there isn't really a piece like jutting in, and that the bridge still sort of looks centered. So that's sort of what I end up doing right here. You can see that. Some of the rocks do go into the track just a touch, but they don't actually go on the rails that the ride rides on. So the ride itself doesn't hit these rocks at all. And I think this bridge is just a lovely little vista point on the ride where you cross over, and it's just, I think it just adds a lot of sort of kineticism to the area, and I think the bridge will just, I think it's my favorite part of the ride so far, this little bridge and the little view of the pond stretching back that way. I think it just adds a lot to the area. So as I build that, I'm going to once again leave you with some lovely Planet Coaster music. Planet Coaster really does have just an incredible soundtrack, so I'm going to leave you with that amazing music, and I'll come back in a little bit. There you have it. That right there is the final log bridge right there. It's a really cool little log bridge, and that about does it for this episode. This little lake area was what I was planning on working on today, and that's exactly what happened, and I think it turned out really quite lovely. I love how the cars go through, and it's just such a beautiful vintage car ride. It's something that is not like heavily themed, but it is really well landscaped, and I think that's just something that's missing in a lot of parks. Just like, I mean, not missing in a lot of parks, like a lot of real life parks do this really well, but in a lot of Planet Coaster parks, a lot of people go overboard with this crazy theming, and I think people should just, if they want really good realistic parks, a lot of parks don't go with insane theming, they just go with sort of really good landscaping, and I think for parks like this, that works really well, especially kids areas like this. So I think the ride turned out really, really well. And that about does it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry if the sort of live commentary is a little awkward and stilted. It's been a while since I've done a Midway Games episode, so I'm still sort of getting into that. I hope you guys enjoy. Feel free to check out all my other videos, my Amusement Adventures series for real-life park reviews, and I have some really awesome stuff coming up with the Wendelverse series, which is a series with me and a bunch of other Planet Coaster creators that was created by JLW Games, an amazing series. It's about to get really crazy. We're all about to be posting some pretty wild stuff, so make sure to stay tuned for that, and yeah, just have a great day, guys. Bye.